Hold this. Do I hold this? Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, the clicker, yeah. I'm Yama Saraj. I am entrepreneur in residence at Maastricht University, where I am involved in research, but mostly application of entrepreneurship and ecosystems and inclusivity. But today, I'm going to tell you my personal story in entrepreneurship. Imagine you're a local boxing champion of your university or school or whatsoever. And suddenly you have a great idea, or you think you have a great idea, and you think, I'm going to use boxing therapeutically, and I'm develop some kind of connected punching bag to give my cousins in distance boxing, and I think it can help them in their personal development, and because it helped for you. And then whatever you do in your university or in your town or wherever, you cannot mobilize support. Maybe it's you that's incompetent, or maybe there's some systematic barriers that you're facing. Nevertheless, as an entrepreneur, it's a given. You have to create value for society. You have to create value for your clients. And if you do your job good, you can extract some value for yourself. But sometimes, our ecosystem is not receptive. Or you could be incompetent in learning to deal with other people's expectation patterns. Then you can decide to go the extra mile, try harder, do something else, or reinvent yourself, or go to another city. Now imagine you decide, out of frustration, to go to Paris. And you're all alone. You didn't really speak the language, you didn't know the culture, and you don't have any money, just a dream. You don't speak the language, you have no money, a little bit ill-prepared, a little bit frustrated, but luckily you get the opportunity to be incubated at the biggest startup campus in the world. But still you have to, Paris is a very expensive city, and the language, and it's French people, they love to strike every day, so upon arrival, the housing you were supposed to get is suddenly not finished, and they tell you, yeah, can you come back later? Yeah, but I canceled my job, and I told these people, like, you're farmers, I'm going to go to a real city, they believe in me, and you're stuck there with your ego, you cannot go back. What would you do? Exactly this happened to me. 5 years ago, I found myself homeless, don't speak the local language, have barely any money, and it's very, very complicated. But I have a dream about using boxing for mental health and to do something for my country of origin, but also local society. And I had no clue about artificial intelligence or whatsoever, so I'm in a state of survival, more or less. But still, I have a big dream, and fast forward, 5 years later, we have been service provider to the French boxing Olympic team, and we're at prestigious engineering school called l'École Polytechnique. It's a French MIT equivalent, and I ended up living 5 months at my office in Paris, in this Station F, it's called. Now I'm very privileged to live in a diplomatic neighborhood in the 7e and next to Eiffel Tower. And life looks a little bit better now. Sometimes I lunch with royalty. This was with our Prince of Constantine. We were talking about innovation policy and inclusion at the Dutch embassy. Starting to get some traction and visibility online for my work. And recently, I'm very proud to tell you that I had the very honor to give the keynote opening speech of Maastricht University, where I shared my story. And it was also, among others, about mental health of students. And last but not least, I recently had the honor to be invited by US State Department as an emerging talent in sport. And I'll be going 4 weeks to the United States, among others to Muhammad Ali Center, to learn more about legacy and life of Muhammad Ali. And upon coming back in Maastricht, Eindhoven, or Paris, I aim to make impact for using sports for inclusion and diversity. But let me go back in time. I come from a modest beginning, I came in 1998 with my mother and 3 siblings to the Netherlands, which is a great country for us, and we have embraced it. We had great opportunities. And yeah, I went through the Dutch education system, which is one of the best in the world. Now I live in France. I appreciate it even more. And that's the reason a lot of international people come to our city. And I hope they'll stick around and also integrate and participate in our society. I used very well the Dutch education system to emancipate myself from the MAVO, this is primary school. I made it to the university. I studied engineering. I studied economics, and I used mobility tools to go to Germany, for example. I went to München half year, and later I would go to Paris. And this extremely helped me in my personal development, so I'm very grateful for that. So education has been a great tool for me to reinvent myself as a human being, understand the new society I'm part of, and also question who I am and what's my purpose and how I can make myself useful. Nevertheless, I also want to share with you that growing up in a small village in Limburg, south of Netherlands, yeah, it was not easy growing up without a father figure, coming in a new society where you don't understand the local culture, and you're the only immigrant kid around. So yeah, you do face a lot of challenges, culture shock. So for me it was not easy, sometimes bullying, exclusion, swastika sign on our window drawn, and so that was horrible. And you have to imagine I come from a society where 3 generations we've been facing violence and prosecution. And Netherlands, my country, I'm very proud Dutch, but nevertheless there's also emancipation to also pinpoint and share these kind of stories. So one day upon this, I decided I want to pick up boxing to hurt these guys who are doing this to me. I mean, bullying around, and I'm walking around with a knife. And I went to a local boxing gym, and out of anger and frustration, and you know, hurt people want to hurt other people, right? So I come there to want to learn boxing, but I realized boxing made me a better man. I can be bigger than these petty fights. And that's why I'm so grateful. All the universities I went, some life skills I did not learn there, but I did learn at a boxing gym. And also, I have a special relationship to Muhammad Ali. Thanks to boxing, I get the opportunity to learn about the life of Muhammad Ali and how he was facing with struggles and challenges, but also in that context of where he grew up, the exclusion and marginalization, how he coped with that, and how he used boxing to transform himself. That's very personal. So to find your own self-worth, dignity, and a purpose, I've been reading all the books I could find about Muhammad Ali's life, and so that personally helped me a lot. And later, I would also look for my roots, literally and figuratively. Growing up in the Netherlands, high school, university, people ask you, where are you from? It's a little bit confusing question, like you come from the city, or you know, like, but people question through because they're curious, they want to know. Where are you really from? You know, then, yeah, I don't know. I grew up in the Netherlands, but my family is originally from Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is in the news. It's complicated and unfortunate situation there. Didn't have much control about where I would end up. But I wanted to look for my roots. I studied economics. I'm very interested in economic development. So one day I decided, hey, let me go. Make a road trip from Netherlands, from Eindhoven to Afghanistan, and look for literally and figuratively, look for my roots. We drove all the way along the Silk Road. It was an amazing trip, and I literally went in 2010. It was relatively safe in the north. We gathered some money with some students, with our friends, and we went to my father's village. It's in the north of Afghanistan. And we did some humanitarian assistance with someone from the Dutch veteran. We built a little school, we built a little micro hydro plant, And yeah, I give kids boxing classes. I took some 12 pairs of 12 pairs of old boxing gloves from my boxing school in Eindhoven, and I went all the way to Afghanistan to give kids boxing. And I realized, wow, this is incredible. I'm really doing something meaningful. I'm empowering these kids. You have to imagine, as I said, 3 generations of violence and war, poverty, lack of opportunities. So I really like, wow, I want to do something with this. Later I would work in developing assistant in Kosovo, Congo, and I realized in these communities there's intergenerational trauma and violence, but there's a huge stigma and shame around mental health, about well-being, this lack of cost-effective health infrastructure. And going back to Afghanistan, I realized I come from one of the poorest regions in the world, and I was so privileged to grow up in Eindhoven, which is the Silicon Valley of the Netherlands, in the shadow of ASML. I don't know if you heard about ASML. This is the most technologically advanced company in Europe. And this contrast between the worlds I'm in between, it made me realize, wow, I have a huge privilege and responsibility. And I picked up, I studied engineering, so I know what's technologically feasible. I've envisioned a connected punching bag so I can coach my cousins all the way in Afghanistan, and they could maybe locally manufacture these things, and we can do this from recycled materials. And as economists, I want to create jobs and local manufacturing, and the regional history and economic development of my hometown Eindhoven. I've been obsessively studying this, and I want to bring these technologies and possibilities to less privileged communities. And I want to do this myself. So, great ideals, I think great idea, but you're facing resource constraints. You don't necessarily have the experience, you don't inherit the social capital or cultural capital, and so how do I deal with that? And above all, people are projecting these low expectation patterns on you. Like, wow, you speak so goed Nederlands. Yeah, jij ook. If you hear this 100 times, but people are not really help you, so you start seeing a pattern, like, wait a second, this is not a compliment, man. These people are having a low expectation patterns. And they might say the stupidest things, like, wow, is this really your idea? Why don't you do something easier? This is too complex. Like, why don't you do something with food, As if all immigrants should be kebab restaurant holder, which is very honorable. There's nothing wrong with that, but, I would do something with vegetarian, but still, okay. But still, I think, hey, it's a strategic value if I try some startup thing with innovation. And so you need to have institutional support, You especially want to innovate, invent, and bring a complex product to the market. So you need some support. And around me, I see in Eindhoven amazing technologies and startup and my peers doing great stuff. And yeah, of course, it's only human thing. Hey, if this guy can do it, I can do it too, so why not me? Yet I was facing this resource constraints, and people are projecting a low expectation patterns on me, and like it made me only smaller and smaller. And the boxer in me says like, okay, I'm gonna show these people, I'm gonna prove them wrong, So this only reinforced my resolve, and I'm thanking all these people that actually were rejecting me or excluding me, because that really helped me, motivated me, in fact. Today, they're paying me to be entrepreneur at Maastricht University, so I'm very proud of that achievement, at least. So a nice gesture from university. And I'm involved in some literature research on entrepreneurship and inclusivity. So I've been looking, how do entrepreneurs reason and make decisions, and also mobilize scarce resources. And there's this famous framework by Dr. Saraswati. It's called effectuation principles. Effectuation. So have a look at it when you have time. Don't want to bother you not too much. But they're looking into how entrepreneurs mobilize scarce resources. And there's another work by a former professor of Maastricht University, Jared Armstrong. And they're talking about entrepreneurship out of shame. So it's only human to say, you know, these guys, Guus, Bertjan, Kees, they're excluding me and victimizing yourself and say, okay, maybe I succumbed to this pressure and I say, okay, let me, highest what I can achieve in this country is make my shawarma restaurant. It's only human to victimize yourself, and I'm doing that sometimes too. But same time, it's also for me, the narrative I tell myself, the society is telling me, I tell other people. It's important to be conscious of this, to change myself and challenge myself and not victimize myself, but take ownership and say, I'm going to lead with example. I'm going to pioneer for my community. Even if I fail, I still can access strategic resources and I can empower other generation. So that's why I embarked on this journey, saying, okay, I'm going to do this despite what? Despite all the big odds. You know, 90% of startups fail within 3 years. Now imagine if you are from ethnic minority, a woman, they're facing exactly the same problems I'm facing, someone from LGBTQ plus community. So I'm not saying we have to give handouts, absolutely not. As an entrepreneur, it's your job to solve problems. Sometimes society is not receptive to your entrepreneurial zeal. So I would claim that refugees or immigrants are per definition born entrepreneurs, but unfortunately our society is not open to their entrepreneurial zeal. And this is a missed opportunity, and that's why I'm working on this matter. And that's why I believe we need targeted interventions. I had to go all the way to France to mobilize support and resources, which I'm very grateful for. And French government, La French Tech, they have explicit policy on this. And this is something we can learn in the Netherlands. And I'm so privileged to be part of this discussion and constructively contributed to this. Thank you so much for listening to me.